courtroom heard nothing. No apology, no denial, no plea. Only the sound of a man sitting still, staring straight ahead, as if frozen between guilt and nothingness. Tyler Robinson, the name that's now stamped across headlines, court documents, and millions of digital screens around the world. The man accused of ending the life of political figure Charlie Kirk. A moment that split public opinion, ignited outrage, and left a family without a son. But this week, something changed. For the first time since that tragic day in Utah, Robinson spoke. Not to confess, not to explain, but to make a request so unexpected, so unnerving that even the courtroom fell silent again. He didn't ask for mercy. He didn't ask for a retrial. He asked for new clothes. A simple request, yet it sent shockwaves through investigators and reporters who have watched him remain motionless, expressionless, unreachable. Why now? Why this? Was it a sign of awakening conscience, or a calculated move to shape how the world sees him? In a case already heavy with grief and unanswered questions, that small moment, a request for something as ordinary as a change of clothes, might reveal more about the mind of Tyler Robinson than anything he said before. Because when a man accused of taking a life finally decides to speak, every word, every gesture becomes evidence. And in this courtroom, silence was never the end. It was only the beginning. So if you're following this story, if you want to understand what really lies behind that sudden voice, that quiet request, and the investigation still unfolding, make sure you subscribe. Stay with us as we break this case open, piece by piece, truth by truth. To understand the weight of that single request, we have to return to where it all began. September 10th, 2025. Utah Valley University, a public event that was meant to be another stop on Charlie Kirk's nationwide tour. An afternoon of discussion, debate, and dialogue. But within minutes, it became something else entirely. Charlie Kirk, known to millions as a political commentator, founder of Turning Point USA, and a fierce voice in America's culture debates, would never walk off that stage alive. The crowd scattered in confusion. Police swarmed the campus. And within 33 hours, the world learned the name Tyler James Robinson, a 22-year-old man now accused of pulling the trigger. A student by record, a loner by description, and according to investigators, a person who had spent months expressing growing hostility online toward Kirk's beliefs and public influence.
The roof, he came up here to the parking lot, got in the car with an individual, and they drove away. Well, that's not the story that came, so that he escaped another route, and there are people who are coordinating this thing. I do not believe that 30-06 that they showed recovered in the bushes was ever on the roof. I think it was in the bushes to start with. And now I'm not saying that Tyler Robinson wasn't on the roof. I'm not saying he didn't pull a trigger. I know I was in very, very close proximity. Some people started, running. Everyone was trying to process. And I thought, this is a gunshot, and there's going to be more of them. I thought it could turn into a mass shooting. So I go to the people closest to me. Everyone's ducking down behind the concrete retaining walls, and some of them were still kind of oblivious, but there were two people that were standing there. Two girls, very goth, very black, And I right here, did you hear that? Was that right here? They said, yeah, it was just right over there. So they're confirming, yeah, the shooter or wherever that sound came from is right here. The thing that didn't really dawn on me is that they were not running. They were not frightened. In fact, as I stepped up, I heard one of the girls, and they were talking to each other, and they're looking at these kids, looking at the scene down below them of all these people fleeing for their lives. And she says, go F yourselves. Like I say, I was not processing that. I was trying to figure out what was going on. I thought this is a separate conversation. I don't know what it is. In hindsight, as I've watched that over and over, it's like these people were not afraid. If they're saying the shooter.
Okay, I didn't want to leave you guys on a crazy weekend cliffhanger. I needed to get that information out as soon as possible. Obviously, you can probably see that I received some information, a communication, which answered a lot of questions that the public has had about the story, or rather the non-story that we are getting from the feds, the push that Tyler Robinson is this lone shooter, which they're trying to establish as a fact. Some of the burning questions that we had, okay, well, if he turned himself in, how did he also not confess? I now have the answers to that. The main point, the reason why this information came to me, is because there's a narrative being spun right now by the media that Tyler Robinson is or was suicidal. That is not true. And that's a very scary thing when suddenly they're saying he's suicidal and, you know, he's in solitary, and he's not suicidal. So that was the reason why this information urgently came to me. Obviously, I know a lot more.
The first time I saw it, my reaction was instant. That had to be the bullet. The angle matched the wound, the shirt puffing up, the trajectory, everything. And if that's true, then the official story doesn't just have holes, it collapses completely. Tonight, we step inside one of the most controversial cases of our time, a case that has divided families, flooded timelines, and left a nation asking the same haunting question: do we really know who pulled the trigger? Within hours of the shooting, the headlines were everywhere. The name Tyler Robinson, the man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk. His face was splashed across every news network. His arrest was treated like the end of the story, but what if it was only the beginning? New medical reports, eyewitness accounts, and forensic contradictions are painting a picture that prosecutors would rather you ignore. A picture that suggests Tyler Robinson may not be the man behind the gun. And if that's true, then an innocent man could be sitting in a cell right now, awaiting the death penalty, while the real shooter walks free. This story isn't just about one man or one trial. It's about the cracks in a system we're told to trust. It's about how quickly evidence can be shaped into a narrative. And it's about the terrifying possibility that justice itself has been hijacked. Because what happened on September 10th, 2025, wasn't just another headline. It was the day an auditorium full of families witnessed chaos unfold in seconds. A day when faith, freedom, and the future of America were interrupted by a single shot. A day when thousands of people believed they saw the truth, but may have only seen a carefully chosen version of it. Tonight, we're not taking the official story at face value. We're asking the questions no one else is asking. We're following the evidence others overlook, and we're going to push until every shadow is exposed. This isn't just about a courtroom. It's about truth. It's about justice. And it's about whether the wrong man is behind bars while the real shooter is still free. This case is far from over. And the more we uncover, the more questions demand answers. If you believe truth and justice matter, help us keep this investigation alive. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video, because the closer we look, the more the official story begins to unravel. Within hours of the shooting, the city of Orem, Utah was transformed into a fortress. Roads were sealed off, helicopters circled the campus, officers in tactical gear swept through buildings, room by room, searching for any trace of the gunman. Parents who had come to hear Charlie Kirk's message were now being evacuated in tears, clutching their children tightly. As the night stretched on, the manhunt intensified. Law enforcement agencies from across the state joined in. By dawn, police announced they had their suspect, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson of Washington, Utah, a young man with no prior criminal record, suddenly branded as the assassin who pulled the trigger that ended Charlie Kirk's life. According to investigators, Robinson had positioned himself on a rooftop overlooking the auditorium, armed with a bolt-action rifle. Detectives claimed his DNA was recovered on the trigger. Surveillance footage allegedly placed him near the building in the hours before the event. And hidden under his computer keyboard, officers say they discovered a handwritten note that read, "I have the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." For investigators, it was the perfect story, a motive, a plan. And now, a suspect in handcuffs. Within 24 hours, prosecutors charged Robinson with aggravated murder, obstruction of justice, and felony discharge of a firearm in the presence of children. They announced they would pursue the harshest penalty possible, death. To the public, it looked like swift justice. But behind the headlines, cracks in the case were already beginning to form. But the deeper you look, the less the pieces fit together. The official version of events says Tyler Robinson fired a high-powered rifle from a rooftop, sending a single round through Charlie Kirk. But newly surfaced medical documents tell a different story. According to surgical staff who worked on Kirk in his final moments, the bullet did not pass through his body. There was no exit wound. Instead, the round was recovered, lodged deep in the tissues of his neck. And it's not just where the bullet stopped, it's the direction it traveled. A source familiar with the medical imaging revealed that the path of the bullet suggests it entered from behind, moving forward. That trajectory is completely at odds with the elevated rooftop position where police claim Robinson was hiding. Forensic ballistics experts we consulted stress this is not a minor detail. A bolt-action rifle fired from a rooftop should have sent the bullet on a downward path and almost certainly out the other side of Kirk's body. High-powered rounds, like the one allegedly used, are designed for penetration. The idea that it would remain lodged inside after striking only soft tissue is, in their words, highly unusual. One expert went further, suggesting that the only way this could happen is if the bullet had ricocheted before impact, or if an entirely different weapon was used. Both possibilities introduce major contradictions into the state's narrative. And then comes the chilling implication: if the bullet didn't come from above, then it may have come from much closer, possibly ground level. Maybe even from someone within the auditorium itself. The evidence, once thought to close the case, now raises a far darker possibility that the real shooter was closer than anyone imagined. But it's not just the medical evidence that raises questions, it's what people in that room actually experienced. Dozens of eyewitnesses echo the same thing: the shot didn't sound distant. It wasn't muffled, it wasn't faint. It was sharp, immediate, so loud that several described their ears ringing as if a gun had been fired right beside them. Many insist the sound came from inside the auditorium itself, not from a rooftop